The apple never falls far from the tree, goes the saying, and so it was for little Jacques Villeneuve, whose father Gilles won a half-dozen Formula One races for Ferrari before his death in a crash in 1982. Following his masterful drive to victory at last week's Grand Prix of Europe, the younger Villeneuve is now a Grand Prix winner like his father. And with Damon Hill, son of world champion Graham Hill, they formed the first team of second-generation winners in Grand Prix history. Today, Hill and Villeneuve hope to continue their season-opening run of success in Round 5 at Imola, Italy. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Varsha from High Overhead. Welcome to the Grand Prix of San Marino. Named for one of the world's oldest republics, the tiny Republic of San Marino is just a craggy outcrop just down the road from Imola, Italy. Of course, it hardly has a place to park a car, so it certainly doesn't have a racetrack. So each year, the Royal Automobile Club of San Marino comes to Imola, to the circuit named for the late Enzo and his son Dino Ferrari for the Grand Prix of San Marino. Down on the grid, you see final preparations being made. With me once again this week, Derek Bell, who drove here for Ferrari. Derek, let's talk a little bit about the racetrack.
The two new drivers at Ferrari, they've given the team top 5 finishes in all races in 1996. Eddie has done well as number 2 to Michael. His qualifying time's consistently closer than previous teammates. Since 1948, the name that has been synonymous with Formula One, Ferrari. Last week, they had a fine second place, but one has to admit the superlative talent of Schumacher, who has wrung the car's neck, has a lot to do with it. However, they still have to win. There hasn't been much enthusiasm for Schumacher from the Tifosi, but surely the hardcore fans can't ignore his outstanding second place last week and a stunning run for pole position yesterday.
And after that stunning run for pole, the suspension broke on the rear of the car. He climbed out to tumultuous applause. There you see Gerhard Berger getting into his Benetton as we prepare for the red lights and the start of this race. Gerhard Berger is the subject of this week's off-track buzz with James Allen.
Well, Gerhard, we're out on these mountain bikes. What do you do normally for exercise, keep fit?
These nice girls.
You look at nice girls. Is it very intensive keeping fit for a Grand Prix season?
You know, I remember in the old turbo days, you had to, anyway, to look after your fuel consumption. So at the end of the race, when you was tired, it was just nice to reduce power and getting over the radio, slow down for fuel consumption. You know? And you anyway was completely finished. So it just was going well together, but it's different now.
You enjoy your racing as much now as you did
before?
before?
I love it.
Yeah,
I still love it. It's great still being to it, still running Formula One. So after such a long time, still being right, you know, nothing, not hurt too badly. Yeah. And, you know, I think it's very important to have remembers like this and to say, or to say thanks for having a life where you're doing what you love.
In 1994, a lot of people said that you were thinking about maybe stopping.
There was the accident of Ratzenberger in Imola. I was sitting in the car for a qualifying lap. I saw when they did the heart massage. And I know when in a circuit you start to do heart massage, doesn't look too good. Yeah. So I was a moment very depressed. He was an Austrian guy, I liked him. I didn't know him too well, but it comes from my mind saying, do you want to end up maybe like this after so many years enjoying? Maybe it's the right time just to walk away. Yeah. So I went back to the motorhome. I thought to myself, so what are you going to do then? Going to stay at home? You're going to go racing something else? Doesn't make sense then. Either you stop or you don't stop. And I end up to say to myself, no, you love it so much. It's the only thing in your life. What can you make enjoying? So even if this is the risk, keep going.
You were quite close to driving with Hill at Williams at one point. You thought perhaps you had, you know, got the deal. Yeah. What happened there?
No, I haven't thought I have the deal, but I was trying to get it. Yeah. I was too late. I'm very happy where I am.
Jean.
Oh,
Well, you're the racing driver. Show me the racing lines.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
And with that, Gerhard Berger blew our James Allen in the weeds. Of course, he referred to Ratzenberger's crash. This was the racetrack 2 years ago that saw the blackest weekend in recent Formula One history when Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna died in separate crashes on Grand Prix weekend. We'll be back for more from the Grand Prix of San Marino. Our coverage didn't... Welcome back live to the Ferrari circuit at Imola, Italy, where we are just moments away from the start of round 5 of the Formula One World Driving Championship for 1996, the Grand Prix of San Marino. Here's a look at our starting grid. On the pole for the first time ever in the Ferrari. First pole for Ferrari here at Imola since René Arnoux back in 1983, Michael Schumacher. Next to him, the points leader for Williams-Renault, Damon Hill. On row 2, Jacques Villeneuve, second in points in the second Williams, alongside David Coulthard, best qualifying performance of the year for McLaren. On row 3, Jean Alesi, who had a big crash in the morning warm-up and will start the backup Benetton, alongside Eddie Irvine, keeping the Tifosi happy in the second Ferrari. On row 4, Gerhard Berger, the grand old man of the series in his 185th Grand Prix start. He'll be next to Mika Salo, who made Ken Tyrrell happy on his 72nd birthday with their best qualifying of the year. On row 5, Rubens Barrichello, the fastest car on the racetrack in a straight line, the Jordan Peugeot, next to the Sauber Ford of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. On row 6, Mika Hakkinen, struggling a bit with the McLaren, next to the Jordan of a man doing likewise, Martin Brundle. On row 7 will be Olivier Panis in the Luget, next to the footwork of Dutchman Jos Verstappen. On row 8, Johnny Herbert in the second Sauber, next to the second Tyrrell of Ukio Katayama of Japan. Row 9 will be Pedro Diniz in the Ligier and the Minardi of Pedro Lamy. On row 10, Giancarlo Fisichella getting his first home country start in the Minardi, next to Ricardo Rosset of Brazil in the footwork art. And all alone on row 11, Luca Badua of Italy in the 40 Ford, the new 40 Ford. His teammate Andrea Montermini, a victim of the 107% rule, he was not quick enough to qualify for this race. Now, I mentioned that Derek Bell had driven here at Imola in Ferraris. That's not quite true, but he has driven a variety of sports cars, and it was once a absolutely blinding racetrack, Derek.
Right. The 3 mile, very twisty circuit. Incredibly bumpy. We go past the pits, 180 miles an hour, down into the S's at Tamburello. Second, third, fourth gear out of there, up to 175 miles an hour on the way to the Villeneuve curves. Then into the left-hand of Tosa, uphill, then flowing down into Piratella. Continuing down to Acqua Minerale. Then a long uphill section through third gear, Variante Alta, up to 186 miles an hour into a downhill curve, Rivazza. Third gear through here, and then up to 170 mile an hour on our way to Variante Bassa. Left and right, second gear, 60 mile an hour corner, leads us onto the main straightaway and back up to 177 miles an hour again.
It is a beautiful racetrack. It harks back to the old days when folks drove on roads. As you take a look at the sheer numbers, 63 laps of racing scheduled. Inside the racetrack, there are farms and stables, and there are houses. Here's a look at our weather conditions. 73 degrees, humidity higher than it was in qualifying, up to 44%, and the chance of rain is just a little bit higher, but we suspect we'll have good weather conditions for this race. Highest point on the racetrack on the backside. As they work their way down through from Piratella down to Acqua Minerale, Variante Alta. It was Piratella where Alesi had his accident in this morning's warm-up. And this is Rivazza, the two quick left-handers.
Schumacher certainly well out in front on his warming up lap, having been penalized so many times, or certainly at Silverstone, for overtaking Hill during a warm-up lap. This time he's on pole and he can go just as fast as he jolly well likes.
You got a quick look at the bright yellow 40 Ford. That is the new generation car designed by a team of designers that include a young 26-year-old Italian designer in his first Formula One creation, Richard DeMarco. Powered by the Ford Zetec R V8 power plant. So it was once called the Ford HB V8, later the Ford ED, is now out of Formula One racing. It was the engine to have about 6 years ago. There's Michael Schumacher. Pole position for the 11th time. His last pole last year at the Grand Prix of Japan, and he won that race. You ride with Jacques Villeneuve. Ahead lies Tamburello, and then the corner named for his late father, Gilles Villeneuve. Field pulling into position. We're ready for the lights. Turn up the sound, and along with a huge crowd here at the Ferrari circuit, let's enjoy the start at the Grand Prix of San Marino.
Not a good start. Not such a good start from Schumacher. In fact, he's got Hill right along beside him. It's all one of the Benettons on the grass. Schumacher's pushed back to second, third, and it's Coulthard into the lead by all accounts. Looks like it's got to be Coulthard. Great piece of work by Coulthard. They're so busy trying to keep Schumacher out of the way that Hill and Villeneuve allowed Coulthard to get in the lead. But Schumacher's not far behind. A lot of dicing going on as the Benettons work their way through the field. A lazy come up from a long way behind to be in contention there for about 6th place. Coulthard locking up a wheel as they go up the hill here. But they're very close behind. Not quite what Schumacher wanted. He wanted that immaculate start, and he didn't get it today. But Villeneuve is way, way back. He didn't need that.
Terrible problems for Villeneuve. The engine obviously not running properly. Down through Piratella they come. This is Acqua Minerale.
And Schumacher all over the back of Damon Hill. Remember, Schumacher has not got the engine they used in qualifying. They got a little less power than they had over the weekend, but it certainly is a reliable engine that's given them all these great results so far this year.
Tip of the hat to David Coulthard, who says he has had difficulty getting used to the imbalance inherent in the McLaren design. They're going to have a heavily revised car for our next race at Monte Carlo, and yet David Coulthard has worked wonders with that machine this weekend.
Yeah, he must be a very happy boy, and at least there'll be some grins and smiles in that McLaren pit this week for the first time for a long, long time. Coulthard really coming to grips with the situation and proving that he really is a talent to be reckoned with, and Damon must be wondering all about it as well, having had him as a teammate last year, and Damon knowing that really he is in the better car. He's slipping back a little bit from Coulthard, and he's got Schumacher all over his rear wing. Not exactly one. Now, who's this going slowly? This is Villeneuve. He's got a flat tire, a left rear tire has come adrift there. We don't know whether it was with contact with another car or he just got a flat, but he's trying to make his way back. Hopefully he doesn't damage the suspension, which of course would put him right out of the race.
Oh, what a disappointment for Villeneuve. It might have been contact in that scrum at the start as you ride with Michael Schumacher.
Here it flicking up through the gears as he sweeps uphill now, halfway around the circuit.
You ride with Villeneuve here. Notice the handling. Oh, he's been off and on.
There it is. Well, that was when the tire went. The tire went just missing the fence there. But obviously the tire went as he came around that corner. He realizes he has a problem. What a sad end for him. Or not an end, but he's certainly going to put him a lap behind. And that is no way to start a Grand Prix.
And this is Schumacher coming alongside Damon Hill.
And he's got him. What a beautiful bit of passing. And they didn't hit each other. That's something to be reckoned with. And here's Villeneuve in the pits, changing tires, taking quite a while over it while they check the suspension. Obviously, they might have done some damage to some of the air devices on the car.
This was the race back in 1982 when the Ferrari teammates Didier Pironi and Gilles Villeneuve had their celebrated contretemps. Pironi agreed with Gilles Villeneuve that the leader late in the race would be allowed to win the race without being overtaken by his teammate. Villeneuve agreed, and then Pironi went around him to take the victory. Villeneuve said at that race, "I will never speak to him again." At the very next race in Zolder, Belgium, Villeneuve going out in the closing moments of qualifying to try to beat Pironi's time, crashed to his death.
You can see Schumacher there actually peeling off one of his tear-off strips. You may remember from the in-car shot when he got by Hill, you could not see anything through the camera. Obviously, Schumacher had the same on his shield, so he had to tear off one of the peel-off strips. No doubt Hill might have a problem if there's oil and water coming out of the back of his car. We don't know, but he's certainly slipping back, and that's not what Damon Hill wanted at this stage. Schumacher all over the back of the McLaren, but it shows the power of that McLaren engine when you saw a shot on the straight just now with the McLaren convincingly pulling away, but Schumacher's right there.
Don't you know that the hopes in the McLaren pits are sky high right now? They have struggled so hard over the last couple of seasons, and this new chassis is not what they hoped it would be. But now David Coulthard has it out front, and he, like Villeneuve a week ago, has the two-time defending world champion all over him through Rivazza.
Every race he does, Schumacher has an uphill battle. It does seem like that, but look at that McLaren pull away. That Mercedes V10 really streaking when Schumacher pulls him in on brakes. The handling's still pretty good in that Ferrari, and he's right up the back of him. Hill is not far behind, and behind that is another blue and white car. Can't quite see who it is at this time, but it could well be one of the Benettons. Oh, it's Berger, yeah. Right.
It is Gerhard Berger having a great race.
And behind him is Salo, followed by Barry Keller.
Now, all of these cars are on Goodyear's very soft D compound, so we expect at least 2 pit stops, perhaps 3 from some of the cars. The rate David Coulthard is going, he might be running perhaps a light fuel load. No disrespect to him and the McLaren Mercedes team, in which case we might see as many as 3 stops in their strategy. Well, a curious opening to this race for the Williams-Renault team that has been so dominant. Jacques Villeneuve had to pit for a tire. Damon Hill is slipping back. We'll be back. Back live at Imola, Italy. You watch Michael Schumacher porpoising along just a bit there in the Ferrari, chasing David Coulthard's McLaren.
Villeneuve somewhere.
Excuse me, Derek, I have to tell the folks that RPM Today will be coming your way at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and RPM Tonight with Kenny Mayne tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Look for my man Derek Bell on RPM Today and perhaps tonight. Meanwhile, the action continues. There's Jacques Villeneuve, who lost the left rear tire on his Williams-Renault on the opening lap. He pitted for a spare, and he now runs, obviously, well back at the tail of the field. This is the battle for the lead. Coulthard and Schumacher, and I almost had trouble saying David Coulthard in the lead.
But in fact, Jacques actually clocked in the fastest lap of the race just now, which is encouraging, so he's working his way through. But Hill must have a minor problem because he's getting back into the clutches of Gerhard Berger, who's having certainly his best run of the year so far. They had so many problems last week at the Nürburgring for poor Berger, and certainly the Benetton team haven't been happy this week with Alesi having a monumental incident yet this morning. So, of course, he'll be a little further back. But Berger's right there behind Damon, no doubt making inroads into the back of him there. You can see them coming through. Berger catching up Hill all the time. Not at all what Damon wanted. He was very happy this morning, was Hill. Very, very happy with the car set up and felt that they cracked it. But they certainly haven't cracked it because they're not in front. It's amazing that McLaren is out in front for so long. I thought it might be there for a few laps, but he's still there. But Schumacher is fairly close.
There you see Hakkinen in the number 13 spot. So Mika Hakkinen's problems continue. He's driving with a lighter wallet. The recent run of Formula One fines continued this weekend. Hakkinen was nicked for $10,000 for passing the checkered flag twice in practice on Friday.
I sure hope he doesn't know that Coulthard's in the front. That would really upset him, because I'm sure everybody thought that Hakkinen would be the first person to be actually leading the race. If there was to be a McLaren in the lead, it would be Hakkinen. And here we have David, who's gradually pulled through each race. He's got closer and closer to the front. Did a fine job last weekend. Got on the podium in the Nürburgring, and here we are with him very, very close indeed, pushing the front of the grid there.
Consider the 40 team. Right now they can say, hey, we're leading the guy who won the race last week. Villeneuve is running behind Luca Badois. Let's take another look at the start. A tremendous shuffle. Schumacher leading the right-hand column. Hill leading the left. Smoky start for Jacques Villeneuve and Jean Alesi in the Benetton all over him. Schumacher managed to get things back under control, but they went almost 4 wide on the run down to Tamburello, and Alesi, as usual, out there in the green stuff. But then Damon Hill suffered some problems. Coulthard went around him. This man, Michael Schumacher, went around him. Let's listen in.
He's only using like 13 to 16,000 the whole time. It's always up there in that peak road band. Listen to it. And I think we used to run Formula One at 8,000 revs, and here we are at 16,000 now.
And you weren't a whole lot slower than what we're going right now.
They were quick. They didn't handle quite as well, I must admit.
Onto the front straightaway comes David Coulthard, and Michael Schumacher dropping back just that little bit. And to think things over a bit, here comes Damon Hill with Gerhard Berger in tow. Then Mika Salo. Ken Tyrrell turned 72 years old on Friday. A happy birthday to one of the great men of Formula One. He's been doing this for a quarter of a century. And look at the lineup behind. There's Hakkinen, followed by, looks like Pedro Denitsen, one of the Legers, and then his teammate. And here comes Ukio Katayama in the other Tyrrell.
They're all running very close, that second group, as it were, very, very close indeed, waiting for somebody to make a move and perhaps be able to get by while somebody has a moment or two. But Berger is certainly catching up Damon here. Can't imagine why it is that Damon's not quite having the run he wanted, but I'm sure he'd want to be in the front. He wants to be up with these two. He certainly doesn't want to slip back, because a good pit stop will not make the difference of 5 or 6 seconds. A pit stop makes a difference of a second and a half to 2 seconds. And that's exactly what Schumacher's got on his side, is tremendous pit work. And we saw how good they were last week at the Nürburgring. Again, Coulthard all over those curbs as he comes through there. I can't see that gets him going very well, but it keeps him ahead of Schumacher, so I guess it works. Who am I to judge?
Another fast lap for Jacques Villeneuve. Now, the word from the Williams pits is that there is no problem with Hill's Williams Renault, so remains to be seen if he's going to be able to come to terms with these guys. Look at the crowd on that hillside to the right. First time I came to this track, that crowd was out there all night long, singing and chanting and partying. Anytime anyone comes out of the garage area in anything resembling a Ferrari uniform, the place just goes crazy. Salo twitching a little bit as he comes onto the straight. He was disqualified from last week's Grand Prix of Europe, as was his teammate Ukio Katayama, for getting a push start off of the grid, and Salo for his car being 1.5 kilos underweight, a little over 3 pounds. Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, the technical director for the team, says they have a formula they go through to predict how much weight they're going to lose during the course of the race. That includes such things as tire wear, oil consumption, and drivers' water loss during the race due to perspiration. They cut it that close, and obviously Tyrrell had to rethink that whole process. We'll continue with more live coverage of the Grand Prix of San Marino from Imola, Italy, as the brake discs glow on Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. Stay with us. From Imola is the town of Maranello, home of Ferrari. Notice that little number right there? That is not a slant-nosed 68 Camaro. It is the new Ferrari. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Also on the grounds, this beautiful shop with just about everything imaginable when it comes to Ferrari.
Jacques Villeneuve, molto bravo.
Molto bravo indeed is Jacques Villeneuve, but right now he runs at the back of the field in the Grand Prix of San Marino after flattening a tire on the opening lap. Let's ride along with Michael Schumacher, leaping the curves everywhere and almost paying for it there.
Yeah, that really cost him some time there. It actually jarred him so much it threw him offline, and it looked like he might have had to back off a little bit. David Coulthard is gradually pulling away. Hill is not getting any closer to him, and it doesn't seem that Berger is making much impression on Hill anymore. They seem to have settled down into a bit of a procession, albeit very close, high-speed procession.
Now you ride with Gerhard Berger in 4th place. That's Damon Hill just ahead. Notice the difference in the engine note between the Renault and the Ferrari.
Seems a much harsher sound from the Renault. It doesn't sound quite as smooth as the Ferrari.
Lots of speculation about what Renault might do in the coming years. They've won everything there is to win in Formula One. Now we're hearing there may be Indy cars in the French automaker's future, even though they don't sell cars in America anymore.
It's interesting, you can see that smearing on the camera lens. We saw exactly the same on Schumacher's car when he was behind Hill just now. It makes you wonder whether Damon is losing a certain amount of fluids, although it hasn't been detected by the engineers back in the pits at Williams. But certainly you saw the lens actually move across to give it a clear white, because you don't know what Berger's lens on his visor is actually like. I'm sure he'll peel off the strip when it comes to it.
There's Michael Schumacher. Let me get back to that street Ferrari you saw just a moment ago coming back from break. We are meant to understand that that was a cosmetically disguised prototype for the new Ferrari Testarossa replacement. I believe it's codenamed the 153. That 1 stands for Formula One because it is a front-engine V12 powered street car with the Formula One derived semi-automatic transmission with the paddles on the steering wheel. Now that will have some mouths watering out there in Ferrari land.
But there can't be anything like the old Ferrari gearbox, the big old aluminium gate sitting in there.
With the H-gate, yeah.
H-gate, beautiful to drive. I was driving a 456 the other day, and it's just so beautiful. Slow, but so positive to find that gear.
You really know how to hurt a guy, don't you?
Sorry about that, Bob. But we do live well in England. Look at those brakes. Do you realize these brakes take such a pounding around here, and they're probably up to between 14 to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's get it right.
Thank you.
14 to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. That's excessive amount of heat. And of course, these carbon fiber brakes, they do actually dissipate the heat remarkably, where they lose it straight away, so the brakes go down to being cool again. They need to be worked hard all the time. Perfect circuit, actually, for carbon brakes.
Michael Schumacher said something interesting the other day. He said the Ferrari has gotten to the point in its development curve where he can stay close. He doesn't have to pass people on the racetrack because the quality of the team is such that he can pass them during pit stops, which of course is not something critics of Formula One want to hear. They say there is a dearth of passing in this sport, but Michael Schumacher takes that into account in his race strategy. Says, I get close, I pit, the team does a good job, I get back out again, go as fast as I can before coming in and after I get out, and I'm liable to pick up positions.
Of course, that actually did cost him last week at the Nürburgring when he came out of the pits, when he was just behind Jacques Villeneuve, of course. As he came out, he got held up behind a whole load of traffic, and that did hurt him, because when Villeneuve had a clear lap, nothing in front of him when he came in, or even when he went out again.
In fact, the guy he got caught behind was David Coulthard, who now leads him in this race. And as you just saw from that graphic, Schumacher is able to go quicker than Coulthard. So Coulthard holding up the Ferrari, it would seem, at this point. You ride with DC.
You can't hear that engine too well. But of course, we do know there's a lot of turbulence behind these Formula One cars, and therefore it can't be easy for Michael to sit there too close through these fast sweeps and turns. However, the corners aren't exactly excessively fast. Here we have third gear corner. This is another third gear corner, and then of course up to 170 miles an hour. But there is that turbulence, which does upset you as a driver when you're considering your overtaking maneuver.
Notice that large pad on the center of the steering wheel. The Ferrari steering wheel absolutely bristles with switches and dials and things. But the McLaren team has chosen to add a pad there for driver safety.
Looks like an air.
It does look like an airbag, absolutely. Of course, that's being considered in Formula One. Notice Villeneuve's times. He has fast lap of the race and continues to come pounding around, trying desperately to work his way through the field. He has the whole race to do it, and it looks like he'll need every lap of that.
But of course, a lot of people to overtake, which is the only drawback to this. But we saw how superb he was last week in working his way through the traffic. He obviously had a great experience of it from Formula 3 at this very track here at Imola, and of course with all his IndyCar racing.
13 laps complete. David Coulthard leads Michael Schumacher, and the first round of pit stops is not far away. Stay with us. Varsha, Derek Bell along with you. The battle continues up front. David Coulthard trying to lift McLaren's spirits. They haven't had a victory since '93. They haven't won a title since '91. And for a team as proud as the McLaren operation, that is a very long drought indeed. And just to the right of your screen, you see the third place car of Damon Hill. Mysteriously, the team says there's nothing wrong with the car, which I'm not sure I believe, but in Formula One, that kind of secrecy is fairly common. But Hill, obviously not on the same program as Coulthard and Michael Schumacher, running second in the Ferrari.
Although he did just throw in the fastest lap of the race, so he can't be going too badly.
Make a liar out of me.
I'm sorry, I hate to do that to you, Bob, but it's the truth. But Schumacher's still there. Coulthard doing a brilliant job in front here, using every inch of the road, and it's great to see the reliability of this Marlboro McLaren with the Mercedes engine doing so well so early on. I expected to see some hiccups with it under so much loading, under so much pressure, but it really is running like clockwork, and it seems to be working with the chassis now. They're not having any problems that they've had at other races, and I think of all the circuits, they didn't expect it to work that well here, because it's all about getting the power down, and they've had a major problem in getting the power down on the road. But with all these new corners that they've thrown in at Imola, that means the cars have to have tremendous traction.
Meanwhile, Mika Hakkinen not having any luck with his McLaren. He's still mired back in 13th place.
But he is behind an amazing group of guys. He's got the arrows in front of him, and a lot of very fast drivers. Alaze's in there as well somewhere. So it must be very difficult, as we know, on this circuit to get by, because there are very few overtaking spots. And if you go out of your way to make a move and don't actually make the move, then somebody behind you is going to nip by and take your place. So when you actually do your overtaking maneuver, it's got to be finished and get it over with. You can't afford to make any errors, and you find yourself dropping back 4 places, rather like in NASCAR when you make a move on the oval.
You saw Gerhard Berger go out of your picture. Here comes Mika Salo. Almost 4 seconds behind. Then Rubens Barrichello. I'm surprised he's not a little bit higher. Fastest car in a straight line, Martin Brundle. Here comes Jos Verstappen in the newly liveried TWR Arrows Formula One car. A couple of Saubers. There's Hakkinen behind the Saubers. The Saubers are an interesting story with those Ford Cosworth V10s. Johnny Herbert using the fly-by-wire throttle. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has gone back to a conventional throttle linkage. A mechanical job. And there is Jacques Villeneuve, who showed so well last week at the Nürburgring. Now here he is on a racetrack that he knew from 3 years in Italian Formula 3. And that flat tire at the beginning of the race has got him at the back of the field.
But he has actually broken the fastest lap recorded last year as well.
He will move up a place because the 40 pits at the back of your screen, while Giancarlo Fisichella brings the Minardi out. Listen to the engine ratcheting on the rev limiter to hold them to the pit lane speed limit.
Damon looks like he might be closing in just a little bit, but he hasn't been clocking up the quickest lap lately. As I say, it was Villeneuve who just did one, but Damon must be getting in there a bit. You just don't know what it's like up there in front. Coulthard, as we know, has been holding the group up before today, but today he's out in front. Whether he's holding up Schumacher or not, I don't know, but Schumacher doesn't seem that close, although the turbulence behind that McLaren must be pretty outrageous. Something they're talking about trying to change for the future on the Indy style, as we talked about last week, a la IndyCar, but I don't know, it's something we've had to put up with for years, this turbulence behind a car. It's something you have to assess when you're making your pass, so therefore you can't get too close, but he's only 0.6 of a second slower, but of course it's varying every time they go into a corner. You can see Schumacher very close there, getting a little bit of opposite lock as he comes in, not giving an inch, but of course not gaining much either. Still 4 seconds between Hill and Berger. That's where it's been the whole race. They're coming up now to lap. One assumes it's the car that just came in the pits for a stop, but we will see in just a moment.
See the gap from Salo in the Tyrrell back to Barrichello. The Tyrrell finally appearing to come good. They changed 40 or 50 parts on that car before the Grand Prix of Europe at the Nürburgring a week ago, and they expected great things from it. They didn't get it. But now it appears that Mika Salo, the unheralded of the two Mikas from Finland in Formula One, the other being Mika Hakkinen, of course. Salo finally getting on form with the Tyrrell. Slower traffic ahead. We'll be back with more live in a moment. Welcome back live to the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari in Imola, Italy. There you see it, Luca Badua, who just pitted, will have a 10-second penalty for pit lane speed violation, something that tripped up Mika Hakkinen twice at last week's race at the Nürburgring. Hakkinen also pitted, got in and out, 8.8 seconds, pitted from 13th place. He's further back. Now here comes Jean Alesi for his first stop in the Benetton.
Well, the guys back here, as we saw Hakkinen, who was behind Alesi, and of course Alesi now, the opportunity for these fellas is that when they go out, the track might be a bit clearer and they can capitalize a little bit on it because they've been in a great train of cars and there's no way they can get by. Looks like he's changing his steering wheel there. They've just swapped over steering wheels on Alesi's car. Maybe some of his controls weren't working too well.
That's the problem Michael Schumacher had in the Benetton at Canada last year that produced Jean Alesi's first Grand Prix victory. A lot of the electronics are built into that steering wheel. The Benetton team held a 2.5-hour meeting on Thursday night, during which the team manager Flavio Briatore basically gave everybody a tongue lashing. He said the drivers are not doing their jobs, the team is not doing their jobs, we can afford no more mistakes. And part of the reason for that team meeting might have been that we understand, as you see the race leader David Coulthard come in, we understand that some of the sponsorship agreements on the Benetton are performance-based. And if you're not producing results, you're not making as much money as you might like.
And that does hurt in Formula One. Let's just see how efficient this pit stop is. But of course, as Coulthard's had a clear run, his visor shouldn't be too dirty. 8-second stop, that is superb. That's going to make Ferrari guys really work their lot when they come in. He's got new tires on a couple of places on. They didn't look like they're brand new all around, but he's gone out. Beautiful pit stop, of course, leaving Schumacher a clear bit of road. He's now got the fastest lap which coincides with him getting a clear bit of road in front of him. I wonder when he'll be coming in, or I even wonder what their pit strategy is, whether they will do 2 stops or 1.
This is something Michael Schumacher is peerless at, getting that quick lap before you come in, giving your team that extra few tenths of a second to get their job done and get you back out without losing positions.
He's really going for it. You hear he's actually coming in that corner, braking and downshifting while actually on a little bit of a curve. That takes some driving. But of course, he's over the curbs there, right out to the outside.
Recall that Michael Schumacher crashed out of this race in the Benetton a year ago when he went too quickly on fresh tires coming out of the pits. Through Rivazza he goes. We understand he will pit this time around.
Yes, there he goes into the pit lane, braking 50 mile an hour from there on in. Hear that rev limiter coming in as he goes down. What a horrible noise. It makes you wonder if it's really doing the engine any good at all. Locked up brakes, stops right on the spot. Boy, there's some brake dust coming off those wheels as they whip them off. They really do cane the brakes around here. Look at the stick really baking on the front. Second half slower than the Coulthard stop, but nevertheless very, very good, and out he goes. We've now got to see what the position is on the road, and he's in the lead. He's coming out ahead of Coulthard. What a beautiful piece of work by the Ferrari mechanics, although, whoa!
And once again, it is those cold tires.
And this is, of course, exactly what happened. The reverse last week. Oh, a lot of muck on Coulthard's visor here. This looks like it could be because they've just refueled. It looks like water. But, of course, the reverse happened last week at the Nürburgring when Coulthard came out of the pits, and as Schumacher came out following him the next lap, he actually got by Coulthard, which, of course, was just what Schumacher needed. And this time, he's in front again. And, of course, Coulthard's going to have to eat some of his dust and brake dust and a little bit of the fluids that we saw coming away from the car.
We saw Jean Alesi has been nicked for a pit lane speeding violation. Now here's Michael Schumacher. Remember, he came out on cold tires. Coulthard had a lap or two to warm his up. And so it became Schumacher's task to stay in front. The car flicked sideways. He caught it. Once again, this is Michael Schumacher at his best.
But of course, believe it or not, the corners at the Nürburgring last week, we had a few more curves on it. And of course, Schumacher capitalized on that. Here, we don't have those corners. Here, it's very much more of a point and squirt place, and there's no way that poor David could actually get by Schumacher while he was sideways. There was nowhere to go. Fastest lap again there for Jacques Villeneuve at a 1:29.3, which is 4 tenths inside the lap record set last year. Now we'll see whether Schumacher can make a break on David. Nevertheless, whatever happened, that was a wonderful opening piece by Coulthard in the McLaren. Beautiful to see him out there in front, something he hasn't seen since last year. Here we have one of the Saubers in the pits, Johnny Herbert. Quick stop, yeah, very quick stop, and out he goes. Oh no, he didn't quite get the gear right as he came out. Really is quite difficult to get this right as you come off those jacks, hit the ground, and away you go. We all think it's just a matter of fact, but boy, you still have to be right on it.
And now Pedro Lamy is ticketed for speeding in the pit lane.
They're collecting a lot of fines this year. They actually asked, the All Formula One guys asked whether all the fines could actually go towards a charity, but the Formula One people decided no, it should go to their charity. Seems a bit harsh. Poor old Alesi, another fine this week. Lucky he earns a lot of money, because if that was us in our state of racing, we'd end up being out of pocket by the end of the season on fines. I don't entirely think it's the driver's fault when they have this fine for pit lane speeding, because they do have a limiter which restricts them to 50 miles an hour. But of course, I suppose some of it can come from the fact that they might come in too fast.
Last week at the Nürburgring, as you take a look at the pit stop comparisons among some of the front runners, Mika Hakkinen, Ron Dennis said later that Hakkinen got on the pit speed limiter, or words to that effect, but that he was going so quickly when he got to the timing point that he didn't give the system time to slow him down to the pit lane speed limit. And then, of course, adding insult to injury, Mika went out and did it again.
But, of course, he'd probably lock up the brakes if it came in too sharply, so it has to slow it down like an air brake on a truck, I suppose. We just saw some pit stop comparisons there. You may remember that Coulthard's actual stop was like a second and a half quicker than Schumacher's, but the overall stop was 1.9 quicker than Schumacher's, yet Schumacher comes round in the lead. So it means that Schumacher, obviously his in-lap and his out-lap was a lot quicker than David's, and that means that Schumacher's out there in front.
Meanwhile, pounding around, Jacques Villeneuve. Icy cool in the cockpit, but perhaps just a little bit tinged with anger right now after that disappointing flat tire on the opening lap. Driving brilliantly, however, trying to work his way up and reach this man. Michael Schumacher leads for Ferrari, and a huge crowd, estimated at something over 100,000 people, are absolutely in ecstasy. We'll be back. Good job by Benetton. Michael Schumacher still leads, but moments ago, the Tyrrell team suffered a big disappointment. Mika Salo plumed white smoke out of the back of his car and pulled off just off the Ravasa corner. Here's what it looked like.
Boy, when they blow up, they really go, don't they? Thank goodness there's no flames, though. That is a very gratifying part of a blow-up, sometimes when they blow up with flame. But look at the smoke puking out of the front of the under tray there.
Fairly comprehensive engine letdown there for Mika Salo. We're hearing rumors that the name on the valve covers of that engine might change from Yamaha to Toyota sometime in the near future. Meanwhile, you ride with Damon Hill. He's having a curious race thus far. A lot of the critics of Damon Hill say he's just not inspired. He can only win when he's leading. When he's behind, he can't pass without crashing. Yet he seems to be pretty effective in producing results.
But of course, he hasn't been in for any stops yet. So in fact, on the road, he's in the lead. Makes you wonder what their strategy is, and maybe they're only going for one stop, and therefore Damon is not with the fuller tanks, had more weight, and therefore would go substantially slower, and then he's been cooling himself knowing the others were going to make 2 stops, something the Benetton team were immaculate at last season. So he's actually in the lead, and he actually got the fastest lap just now. Meanwhile, Schumacher is in second place, taking that over from Berger, who went in for a very, very quick pit stop, and Coulthard is third. And it must have brought out Berger in a very, very close, challenging place for fourth spot.
Luca Badua now gets hit with a pit lane speeding violation, a 10-second. They also call it a stop and go, which seems kind of oxymoronic, but John Alesi has still not answered the call for his violation. No word as to whether he's been black flagged yet. He runs in the 9th position. You get a good look at the new helmet Michael Schumacher is wearing in order to try to improve the airflow as he pulls off the tear-off. It's one of those Simpson-style IndyCar helmets with the flat back on it. You get a look, well, you almost got to look at it there. You've seen it at the Indianapolis 500 year after year for the last couple. Meanwhile, Jacques Villeneuve, now this is his second stop. He's coming out on scrubbed tires.
I have to say here, Bob, that Bell helmets are very much out there as well. They actually have a helmet the same. One has to think that it's not only Simpson that have done it, but Bell are out there.
Oh, sure.
The 2 top helmet providers in the world, both, of course, American.
I say Simpson because that was the first one I saw at the Brickyard a couple of years ago. Interesting design with that flat back on it.
Hill again got another fast lap at 29.1, but he should be coming in momentarily for a stop. I can't see why he hasn't done so yet. But maybe they were trying to get him to get the most he possibly could in while he was actually running on low tanks, get some very quick laps under his belt.
Here's Eddie Irvine, in and out, quick stop for the Ferrari. They had a little trouble getting it in gear there, and it wasn't 7/10 of a second, but it was a quick one. Down to Tamburello he goes, where once again this weekend, you look quickly over on the right, you can see there are some flowers up against that wall. This is the reconfigured Tamburello corner, where the late Ayrton Senna had his fatal crash 2 years ago on this weekend. And this is the Villeneuve corner, made for the late.
You can imagine what it's like when we didn't have those 2 chicanes there to slow everybody down. It was a mighty circuit.
Oh, it was indeed. Of course, Tamburello is also where Gerhard Berger had his
They're
big
taking their
crash.
times here. I'm sorry to interrupt.
This is his 10-second penalty for the pit lane violation. About to say, Gerhard Berger had that fiery crash in the Ferrari here at Imola back in 1989. And he says after that crash, he thought about not racing again. But as you heard him discuss with James Allen earlier, this is a sport he loves, and he could not stay away.
Schumacher working his way through some slower traffic, pulling away from Coulthard. You just saw a glimpse of Coulthard in the back there, but Schumacher pulling away. Of course, concerning these pit stop violations or penalties that they incur, they're actually done within the team's own pit this year, and it's up to the team manager or the crew chief to hold the car in for the 10 seconds. If you, in fact, break that 10 seconds by making it 9, you get penalised yet again. So it's really up to the team to do it, whereas in previous years you'd come into a box at the beginning of the pit road or at the end of the pit road and wait there under the scrutiny of the organisers. Now you do it yourselves. Schumacher in front of the race, Coulthard falling back little by little, with some slower traffic between him and Michael.
That was Ricardo Rosset in the TWR Arrows that Michael Schumacher just went around. Tom Walkinshaw now fully in control of that team, and the rumor this weekend, and you know about it if you watched our qualifying show yesterday, is that the Arrows team is building up a chassis to go to Japan to test Bridgestone's Formula One tires that were originally supposed to come on stream in 1998. Now we're understanding it may be as early as next year that the Bridgestone/Firestone company comes to Formula One. 29 laps complete, approaching halfway. There you see
Damon, of course, in the lead, but he still hasn't pitted. That should be coming fairly soon, unless he has this, as I said just now, this other strategy of doing only the one stop.
A one-stop strategy on these soft compound D Goodyears would be quite a tour de force by the Williams team.
So it'll be interesting to see just whether Schumacher, having had a 23-second pit stop, is actually catching Hill or is falling back from Hill. We will see in a moment, I've no doubt.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen runs 7th. Mika Hakkinen now up to 8th. Back to that tire story. Apparently Goodyear has yet to confirm new contracts with McLaren and with Benetton, two of their key teams in recent years. Of course, Goodyear, the sole supplier of Formula One tires for many years. So McLaren is off.
Hakkinen, is it? Has to be Hakkinen.
It's Hakkinen.
It's Hakkinen. Oh, he had a nasty moment there, but pulled it back round pretty quickly. He's having a torrid weekend, but he's working his way back into the field again now, but that must have concerned him somewhat to go off the road when he's not really under that much pressure.
I think really it was Martin Brundle trying to go down inside.
Hill in the pits, so it must be a 2 pit stop strategy, but he had a nice break there at the beginning to actually make up some time with a clear bit of track.
Into the pits he comes, up on the jacks he goes. 14 to 16 crewmen piling on the car.
Very quick stop, 7.6 seconds. That's not quite as quick as Berger's, but as quick as we've seen. Let's just see who goes by now. Where is Schumacher and where is Coulthard?
Here's another look at what happened to Mika Hakkinen. Oh, he had it swapping ends before he reached the second of the left-handers at Ravazza.
I would suggest he lost it under braking and flicked it round, but he kept it going, kept it off the marbles, or didn't stay on them too long, however. This is another shot of it. Whoa, he lost it as he went in. Boy, didn't the scenery go around quickly when you're sideways and spinning at 100 miles an hour?
It was interesting. Before the race, we saw Mika Hakkinen being spoken to very intently by team manager Ron Dennis, who is renowned for his ability to handle drivers. And we remarked at that time, I wonder if Ron was giving Mika Hakkinen a bit of an attaboy to try to lift his confidence and bring him back to what he once was. Not having a good day here at Imola. Welcome back live to Imola, Italy. There you see the end of the race for one of the minorities, killing mosquitoes through the Tamburello chicane. Giancarlo Fisichella, who's been to Imola so many times in Italian Formula 3 racing, is now out of the Grand Prix of San Marino. This is Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, closing, just gobbling up Damon Hill's lead.
So obviously that policy they had of keeping Damon out there to get some clear laps, getting some quick times on low fuel tanks, paid off because he came out ahead of Michael Schumacher. Michael, of course, has eaten up a second and a half of the gap there was between them, but now, of course, it's all very well catching up, but he's got to get by him. Not as easy to do as one would imagine.
Just outside that wall in the background is a river, which is why this corner could not be lengthened and reprofiled and remained the hairy-chested Tamburello that it was for so many years. Through the Villeneuve twists they go, down to Tosa, slowest corner on the track. We begin a strong uphill climb. Past halfway now. The running order is Hill, Schumacher, and Coulthard. Gerhard Berger remains in 4th, as he has from the beginning of this race. Rubens Barrichello now up to 5th, and Eddie Irvine in the points. 10, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 points for those positions. Then just outside the points, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Pedro Denitz running well, Ukio Katayama, Jos Verstappen, Olivier Panis, and Mika Hakkinen, who was up in the 8th spot before he spun at the Rivazza corner and finds himself back out of the top 10.
Villeneuve's working his way through, but it seems to be a long process from back there. He was obviously a long way behind. He's working his way through, but he has Alesi and Brundle to overtake in front of him. But at this point, I can't just see just how close they are on the road. Hill seems to be holding his own now with Schumacher behind him. We've seen this before, but it's a long way to go yet. Only just halfway. He's pulled it out to 1.3 seconds, so he's sort of setting the pace, setting the standard, is Hill.
Maybe this is shades of what we saw a week ago at the Nürburgring, where Jacques Villeneuve was easily able to hold Michael Schumacher off. Schumacher got close, but only so close, and then it seemed Villeneuve was able to step things up just a little bit and keep him behind.
Well, of course, we do know that the Ferraris do not have the engine, the evolution of the V10 that they had in qualifying and through practice. They just are not confident enough it would last the race time. We've been told that they will run it at Monaco, but of course, I think if he had that engine, which obviously is worth 2 or 3 tenths of a second, they say. However, Schumacher did happen to find a second in the fact he got on pole position. But they say when asked that it's worth 3 tenths of a second, the new configuration. Schumacher will have it for Monaco. But he's not doing a bad job, considering the way Ferrari consider the beginning of the year. They'll be lucky to get some good finishes. Here they are mid-season and challenging for the lead, having got pole position. I think it's remarkable they've done so well with a new car.
In the Sauber pits, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in. This will be Frentzen's second stop, I believe.
And a long one at that.
Oops. Oh, out comes the steering wheel.
Oh, is that it? Just like that? Oh, well, that's over pretty quickly. I thought he'd just come in for a pit stop, but I guess it's terminal. That's a great pity. They're not having a good time with that team this year. And they need to really, with Stewart coming in next season, they need some really good finishes, some good results to keep Ford's confidence in them.
Absolutely. Some journalist, I don't know what he was thinking, but he asked Johnny Herbert over the weekend whether he thought Ford was perhaps not pursuing development of that V10 as much as they might, considering that it's going to Jackie Stewart's new team next year. And Johnny Herbert said, we're talking about Formula One here. Why on earth would they not be going for the best possible results they can get right now?
And there's no possible way that Jackie Stewart's team, however good Jackie is, are going to come out with a new car, new team, and put it all together and be immediately competitive, super competitive. I don't think so.
Damon Hill leads Michael Schumacher. Ferrari hasn't won here since 1983 when Patrick Tambay took the red cars to victory lane. Remains to be seen whether Shuey can do it. For Markets 300. Bob Varsha along with Derek Bell here with you. The Grand Prix of San Marino live from Imola, Italy. Damon Hill has the lead. Michael Schumacher wants it. There you see the running order through the top 5.
Can you imagine what a Grand Prix would be like around Sears Point?
Oh my.
What a brilliant circuit that really is. I guess they'd have to put some chicanes in everywhere. There were bumps and rises. And
have to move a lot of dirt, but boy, that'd be great. Or how about Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin?
Yeah. Well, that to me is the best circuit in the States. I just love it. It's just an outrageous circuit. I love the combination of fast and slow and these 3 great fast straights they have there.
There you see Jacques Villeneuve has worked his way up to 14th after a flat tire on the opening lap of this race. Dropped him to the rear of the field. Got Jean Alesi ahead of him. Alesi not having a very good day. There is Alesi.
With Villeneuve right behind him.
His name in French roughly means after you, which could not be more contradictory when it comes to Alesi's personality in the cockpit.
He says it is. He says he's just the same as everybody else, very calm and quiet, but I don't think he shows it when he puts the helmet on. A real charger, but sometimes there's a little bit lacking there, which is a great pity because I think he has the potential to be world champion, but it doesn't seem to come together frequently enough. His drive in Sao Paulo was superb, and I thought he did a great job, other races in his career, but I think Sao Paulo proved just how good he was in those difficult conditions.
Hard to believe, Jean Alesi. We were there for his first race in the Tyrol. I believe it was at Jerez in Spain. He now is racing in his 109th Grand Prix start. Hard to believe. I've been there for Alesi's entire career. Gerhard Berger, the most experienced driver in the field with 185 starts. Martin Brundle working number 147. Alesi third among the drivers in this race with 109.
It's remarkable they keep clocking in quicker times. His Schumacher's broken the 29 barrier, the 1 minute 28.9. It's really remarkable how these guys are getting down there, pushing, going faster. You'd think they'd flatten off at some point during the race.
That's more than half a second under last year's fast lap set by Gerhard Berger in a Ferrari. This should be interesting. Mika Hakkinen, Martin Brundle, Jean Alesi, and Jacques Villeneuve.
Nobody prepared to give an inch. But as we spoke just now, there is very little place for overtaking here. Nothing at all. And it's so sad that it's really frustrating for these drivers. I haven't heard anybody say what a great track it is. It used to be a great circuit. They put all these chicanes in, a bit of overkill following that tragic weekend 2 years ago, but they really ruined the circuit. And of course it means there is no overtaking, and we just get this procession, which Formula One unfortunately has had a reputation for the last couple of years. But there's nothing more these drivers would like than to have a real circuit where they can get out there, grit their teeth and go for it. Fortunately in sports cars we actually still have some circuits in the world that we can enjoy. Even Le Mans, where they put the 2 chicanes in on the 6 kilometers straight, still Le Mans has the most demanding corners you'll ever see. And there we have, who is that?
Barrichello's car.
No, it's Brundle.
That's Brundle's car. I'm sorry, that's the 12 car. Just a moment ago, we saw him in the thick of that fight around the number 10 spot.
He got out there very quickly.
Well, you know, we did see that cloud of dust. I thought Alesi had put a couple of wheels off in his efforts to hold back Villeneuve, but it must have been Brundle going straight on. I believe that's at the Aqua Minerale chicane. And with that, Alesi and Villeneuve, for that matter, pick up a position. They are now running 12th and 13th. Meanwhile, Damon Hill is first, and that man, Michael Schumacher, is second. This is the Grand Prix of San Marino, live from the Enzo and Dino Ferrari circuit in Imola, Italy. Bob Varsha and Derek Bell, glad to have you with us with 25 laps remaining. That's the view Michael Schumacher has of race leader Damon Hill.
Look how he catches him up as he comes down under braking and through the turns. But of course the superior performance of that Renault engine, and Hill gets away on the uphill section. We just had a report from the pits that in fact Frenzen's stop was for brake reasons, which is not unsurprising when you consider the problems they're having here with severe temperatures on their brakes with all this stop and go driving they're doing.
Schumacher tied for third in the World Championship with Jean Alesi, who runs well behind him. Damon Hill leads by 11 over a teammate, Jacques Villeneuve. All that could change considerably today. We're back live in Imola, Italy, where Damon Hill, leads Michael Schumacher. There's the gap from Schumacher back to David Coulthard. So obviously with 16 seconds in hand, the battle is between these two. But keep in mind, there are plenty of pit stops still to come. Although we understand Ferrari will switch. They originally had planned 3 stops. They will now just attempt to make 2 because they realize that's what Damon Hill is doing. And here comes Michael Schumacher.
Because obviously he was being held up by Damon, at least that's the way he feels. So he's coming in to get a clear bit of track in front of him, he hopes. Somebody must have figured out there's a big enough gap somewhere probably behind Coulthard when he goes back out on a fresh bit of road after a 23-second stop overall. Should get out and maybe get some quick laps in.
Meanwhile, Damon Hill's responsibility right now is to get around as fast as he can. Yep, they want to put in all that extra fuel. Yep. They will not stop again.
There he goes. They're right at the end of the pit lane, so he doesn't have too much 50-mile-an-hour stuff on his exit. Now we're going to see how clear a road Schumacher's got. It looks clear in front of us at the moment, so he's going to get some nice, clear, quick laps in to capitalize on the fresh tires. Of course, he does have a little more fuel than he ran in the previous segments.
Downshifting into those S's.
Yes, you can actually see him press a button with his right thumb on the right-hand side of the wheel, which I believe is actually when he presses the button from 6th, it's pre-programmed to go down to 2nd gear, so it doesn't actually have to shift through the gears, which they do on a few corners. You've got to know when to press that button, though. Boy, you'd hate to press it at the wrong time.
Going as quickly as he can, Damon Hill. Knowing he has another pit stop in his future, or at least we assume he does.
Well, he had such a quick stop just now for tires and fuel. There's no way they put enough fuel in to finish the race. But then we don't really know what's happening.
Brundle, we know, is out of the race, so 16 cars remain in circulation of the 21 that started. We haven't seen an awful lot of attrition in Formula One this year.
Dust. Look at that brake dust all around the car. Can you see it? There they go. Clears away now. But the brake dust when they take those wheels off.
Word from the pits is that the Williams crew is working over their computers, and they may attempt a one-stop race. They did stop very near to the midpoint, but I'm with you, Derek. It was a very short stop. The question is, did they get enough fuel in? Meanwhile, David Coulthard pits the McLaren, and did he stall?
Oh, no, they're jacking it back up again. There's something wrong at the back of the car. They've got the jack under, they're checking it out. I don't know what they're looking at. Of course, here comes Irvine into the pits for his stop. Of course, that group, there's a group very close together back there, so they're all pitting, trying to break up that group. Coulthard's, we hear, gone from the pits. You can hear it roaring off up the road. See how Irvine gets on long stop, but they seem to be taking on more fuel than they did before, or else it means they've been using a lot more than they anticipated they should have been. Fair amount of acceleration there. Under deceleration, they're pulling far more G than they under acceleration. Deceleration, they're actually pulling up to 4.4 G. That's incredible. That means your helmet on your little old head under 4.4 G weighs something like 90 pounds. That's a lot of strain on those neck muscles. That's why these guys have to be in peak condition.
Young English open-wheel racer Jamie Davies recently tested the McLaren for the first time in a Formula One car. He said, you stamp on the brakes to heat them up, and it's like having a head-on collision in a road car. They stop that quickly.
And of course, that's why it's so difficult for these fellas to overtake one another, because the braking area is so brief that there's no way you can assess getting by somebody purely under braking. You've got to start it up by getting a good bit of momentum out of a corner before and actually slipstreaming, dragging him down to the next corner and slipping by with momentum as well as with brakes.
In fact, he said the braking technique in high-speed corners is interesting because they stop so well that as the car slows, it loses downforce with speed, and then you have to modulate the brake pedal at the end of the braking area. Otherwise, you're going to lock up the wheels.
Yes, there's a lot of feeling has to go into these brakes. Oh,
ooh, a mechanic is down.
Is that
the Ferrari pits?
Or is it McLaren?
Or perhaps McLaren?
They're all the first aid people around, but we can't see who's around him. And we don't know what...
Bringing a stretcher is one of the Jordan's exits. That would be Rubens Barrichello. Martin Brundle is out of the race. Well, we hope he is not hurt. Perhaps a forgotten aspect of that dark weekend in 1994 was that mechanics were also felled in the pits when Michele Alboretto's car lost a wheel as he exited the pits. Meanwhile, the race goes on. Now we understand from the pits that was Jos Verstappen's pit and that he left before the fuel hose was disconnected. That is what led to the incident.
Hakkinen goes and stalls it. No, he doesn't. He's actually waiting for traffic to go by, I think. There are other cars going up the pit road. Not a good stop for Hakkinen, but then he's so far back. It's purely elementary right now, I guess, as to how he gets on for the rest of the race. But still 20-odd laps to go. Hill out in the lead.
20 laps exactly. Now Damon Hill with that clear track around him.
A 26-second lead over Schumacher. Probably even not over Schumacher's probably further back than second place. He's probably even behind Coulthard at this point. Both of whom, of course, we assume will pit.
Well, if Damon doesn't and he can pull this off, it will be a master stroke for the Williams team that was vilified last year for being outdone by the Benetton crew week in and week out. We'll be back. On the racetrack, Michael Schumacher has traffic ahead of him, and race leader Damon Hill is about 25 seconds up the road.
Schumacher's actually waving his fist at the car in front to get out of the way. He really wants to get that McLaren out of the way so he can go by. He was very close to it just now, and he was waving his arm quite profusely there. There he goes. Oh, he can't be waving at the fans, that's for sure. I think he concentrates a little too hard for that. 18 laps remaining. Damon Hill was actually just coming up to lap Villeneuve, who was in 7th place just before Villeneuve shot in for a pit stop. Very good move, actually, to get Jacques out of the way at that point, so Damon could have a clear piece of track.
Villeneuve, in fact, pitted during the commercial break. Michael Schumacher struggling just a little bit there in the braking area for Tosa. Oh, and there's David Coulthard. His race is run.
Oh, that's such a pity. He was doing so well. He was doing so well. It'll be tragedy for McLaren and Mercedes, but they did prove that they can be very competitive when the whole thing works as one.
He led the race from the beginning, led it substantially, led it for the first third of the way, but now it appears that he is done. He's off at Aqua Minerale.
And of course it's Häkkinen that is holding up Schumacher at this point. Very difficult for Schumacher to get by, and of course he's losing a lot of time. Meanwhile, Hill is pulling in quick laps. Well, there's Häkkinen having a go to get by.
It's one of the
Does
Ligers.
get by it. Now, of course, Schumacher's got to do the same, but it just isn't difficult. And they don't seem to help one another, these guys. They must realise that Schumacher is contesting the lead, but then maybe they don't. They're running their own race. They don't know whether the guy is what he's actually up to. A bit of understeer there as he turns in, or quite a lot of... Look at him having another go at Häkkinen coming out. Just shows the performance of some of these engines, but they just don't have the cornering ability.
That's the Ligier with that Mugen Honda
Ooh,
V10.
really
They go
touching.
wheel to wheel.
Very close indeed. Paul Michael's got this lot to contend with. These two in front of Dyson, they don't give a darn about Schumacher behind.
And that's the point, isn't it? That Schumacher once again being held up. The gap is now 34 seconds. Damon Hill, if he needs a second stop, could do it and easily retain the lead with a good stop.
Schumacher will be getting very upset at this point because Schumacher, if Hill has a conventional good 25-second stop, he'll come out 13, 14 seconds in front. Michael did not need this at this point, but he's got it rather like he had last week at the Nürburgring.
You saw that blue flag obscuring the picture just a little bit. That is the passing flag. Michael Schumacher desperately wants these guys to obey it and let him through. Meanwhile, the yellow flag must be for this. This is Ukio Katayama, both Tyrrells out of the race. Oh,
poor old Ken. Not much of a 72nd birthday for him. Looks like Schumacher made the break there, did he? Yes, he got by the Ligier. This is probably going to see the move now. No, this is Coulthard. We understand he had an electrical problem. There it is, something just switched off, and he coasts off the road to park the car. How unfortunate. It's all very well, this high-tech stuff, but there's a lot of electrical equipment on there to go wrong.
Be another interesting debrief in the McLaren-Mercedes pits.
But at least they're getting there, and it gives them heart when they at least show promise. When they're 2 seconds off pole, as they were 2 weeks ago, or even a week ago, they get very disheartened. But something's happened there, and they led the race for quite a while. 37.9 seconds between Hill and Schumacher. That really isn't good at all.
But he has gotten around the Ligier. That is the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen just ahead that Schumacher will next try to lap. Let's take a look at our Haviland race recap. The race leader right now is Damon Hill, who has led since lap 21. 2 lead changes between 3 drivers. One of them, one of them, David Coulthard, who is now out of the race. Here are the other cars that are out. Johnny Herbert and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Bad weekend for Sauber. Salo is out, as is his teammate Katayama. That means both Tyrrells are now hors de combat. Giancarlo Fisichella's race ended. Too bad for the young Italian. Jos Verstappen, Martin Brundle went straight on at Aqua Minerale. And you see the rest. So for Damon Hill, an opportunity to consolidate his 11-point lead coming into this race in the World Championships. And with his teammate second in points, Jacques Villeneuve, running out of the points at this juncture, Damon Hill could add the full 10 points to his margin over his teammate.
Well, of course, you mustn't forget Coulthard just fell out, and he was in the points when Jacques was lying in 7th place. So Jacques must be getting close to the top 6 at this time. There's still 17 laps to go.
Word from the pits is Jos Verstappen's fueler suffered a broken arm when Verstappen pulled out while the fueling hose was still engaged. No word as to whether fuel spilled. I would have to guess it did. But perhaps more importantly, a crewman was injured, but it appears, despite the broken arm, he'll be okay. Now, Jean Alesi
having another one of his kamikaze overtaking maneuvers here, which he came off second best. It wasn't Alesi there, was it, really?
That was Olivier Panis. He was trying to go around in the Ligier. He does it with style, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, but boy, is he having some moments. He's getting very frustrated, and he's really got to calm himself down, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of words spoken at the post-race briefing, or debriefing, should I say, of the team at Benetton. They're not at all happy the way things are going. But fortunately, Gerhard is still there somewhere. We're not seeing much of him, but he must be probably in 3rd spot right now, because Coulthard fell out, who was lying in 3rd.
See the gap from Mika Hakkinen, with whom we ride for the first time today. The first time since he took it off in Ravazza. Meanwhile, Damon Hill has reset fast lap and is now nearly 40 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. At this point, might be thinking in terms of a white flag, and I don't mean the one that means last lap.
Schumacher now got to continue. Who is that? Is that Berger in front of him?
Alesi ahead of Schumacher, about to be lapped.
Yeah. That horrible sign when you see somebody waving a blue flag at you, when you know you've got the ability to be further up, and here you are about to be lapped. That's a nasty feeling for any driver. Very demoralizing. Schumacher getting quite a bit of offset lock on there as he tries to correct the car. He really goes in there deep.
Michael Schumacher, the only man that has been able to break up a domination at this racetrack by the Williams and McLaren teams. In the last 10 years, some combination of McLaren or Williams has won 9 of those races as Damon Hill pits. Williams has won 4 of the last 6. Michael Schumacher won for Benetton in the black year of 1994. Putting scrub tires on the Williams. Another good pit stop.
So that won't, sorry.
Big smoky exit.
So that won't help Michael Schumacher any, so Damon goes out a good 15 to 20 seconds in the lead. Just what he needed to consolidate his position up front. I bet he can't believe this is what's happening when you consider the opening laps of this race.
Villeneuve is in the points. He is a lap down, but there you see him in the number 6 spot. So he will pick up at least 1 point if the race were to end right now.
Schumacher's got a clear bit of track again, but the 24 seconds behind at this point.
The race continues live, and we will be here after a break for more of the Grand Prix of San Marino. Damon Hill leads handily. Back at Imola, Italy, adoptive home of the Grand Prix of San Marino. Bob Varsha, Derek Bell with you. There is Michael Schumacher in that distinctive helmet. He has Jean Alesi just ahead of him, but Alesi is almost a full lap down. Now, moments ago, we watched Schumacher tussling with Pedro Diniz and Mika Hakkinen. We finally got around both of them, but both of those drivers, we understand, are now going to be penalized for blocking.
It makes you wonder what'll happen next. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. We are out there racing after all. I mean, those two guys are having a real race for position, and here you are getting a 10-second penalty. I mean, how far can you go to let people by? I mean, you could pull over all the time, say, after you, Claude. There it is. That's really very unfortunate. They don't need that. Hakkinen will be totally upset, demoralized, and I'm sure even his Scandinavian demeanor will be certainly damaged by that. He'll be very, very upset by that. Meanwhile, of course, Schumacher is having a go at Alesi. I sincerely hope that Alesi doesn't get a penalty for holding up Schumacher. I mean, how far do you go with this?
Does seem rather silly. Michael Schumacher trying everything within his considerable powers to bring Ferrari. It looks like he will have a podium at least. He was hoping for a victory after taking pole for this race. But right now, Damon Hill has checked out.
Yeah, he's well away, Damon is. It's all fallen into his lap. Nonetheless, he's driven a superb race. A very well handled race tactically by the pits for a change this season. It's working better for them. But after last year, surely all they could do was improve it. But he's done a great job. He's proved to be very, very smooth, very calm, very good under pressure. I mean, we saw him under pressure there in the early parts with Berger behind him and Schumacher in front of him. But he's driven beautifully well, keep it under control.
As we mentioned, this is the older iteration of the Ferrari V10. They had a newer one that was more drivable and more powerful that Schumacher put on pole. They will race that engine, the better engine, in our next event, the Grand Prix of Monte Carlo, as you watch Diniz serving his 10-second penalty. Meanwhile, the innocent victim of all their dastardly deeds, Michael Schumacher, continues on his way. We'll be back with more of the Grand Prix of San Marino after this. There is Damon Hill having things all his way as he runs for his 4th victory of the season He has gotten around his teammate Jacques Villeneuve, and moments ago Michael Schumacher got around Jean Alesi, and as with everything involving Alesi, it's always a bit spectacular.
Yeah, Alesi got it out a bit wide there. I'm sure afterwards you'll say, well, I just wanted to let you through, Michael. No way. Interesting to see here that Schumacher actually is pulling back a little bit of time on Hill, although probably that moment with the excursion with Alesi just now would have set him back just a little bit. Berger's fairly close in third place with Irvine not far behind him. Barrichello close behind Irvine. So it's all fairly tense here at the top of the field.
Gerhard Berger could make his first podium of the year and his first ever for Benetton. That would be good news for the grand old man of the series right now. I bet he'd just love to hear me call him that.
He certainly would at about 36 or something.
Although he dusted James Allen on that mountain bike.
Yeah, but look at the difference between the two of them. I mean, one's an athlete, the other isn't. Beautifully neat run there by Damon, not using the curbs. The curbs are very flat on the majority of corners, so the lads can run out and up onto the curb. They don't want to get involved with bouncing off too many, although Damon in a very commanding position certainly doesn't want to risk damaging any suspension. Immaculate piece of driving, not even using the curbs. They're out to the white lines. He knows he's got it made, really, with 20-odd seconds between them and not many laps to go. He's just got to keep it clean, and the race is his. Meanwhile, of course, he wants to keep Villeneuve at play. He doesn't want Villeneuve to go by him and embarrassing him by unlapping himself. But Villeneuve, I think, knows too that he's quite a way behind the car in front, who at this point, I'm not sure who it is. It probably is actually Eddie Irvine. Or is it, no, Barrichello. Who's this pulling off?
This is Olivier Panis, parking the Ligier, his team in some financial difficulties. Flavio Briatore owns this team and runs the Benetton team. We mentioned that he may be having some sponsorship difficulties due to a lack of results with Benetton. And now Tom Walkinshaw has taken much of the sponsorship money from Ligier to his new effort, the TWR Arrows team.
I can't imagine how this works, because Tom Walkinshaw still owns 30% of Benetton shares, and I don't quite understand how all that works. The intrigue that must go on. An amazing shot there of the brakes glowing up to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit.
Don't try to describe the intricacies of Formula One commerce. And there is the reason.
A big blow-up for him as he comes through the corner. The Mugen engine finally succumbing to the severe revs and the bashing they get at these circuits. Actually, quite a lot of engines have blown up today. I wonder if it's due to the fact of this severe braking and then backing up, whacking back on the throttle pedal again and re-accelerating.
Well, the Williams technical director, Patrick Head, said everybody was close to us in the first 3 races of the year, which were predominantly tight, twisty circuits. We'll see what happens when we get to the quick tracks of Europe. We're seeing it. We're back live at the Grand Prix of San Marino. Damon Hill leads. Michael Schumacher is closing, but he may not be closing quickly enough. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, RPM tonight, we'll have all the news of the day in motorsports, television's only daily motorsports highlight show, and it's on the Deuce, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Damon Hill, of course, has got 5 laps to go, 19 seconds between him and Schumacher, but of course he has a rear gunner in the fact he's got Villeneuve behind him to fend off all borders as they come up, so I don't think Schumacher's going to find it easy if he does catch up to get by Jacques and then to get by Hill. But 18 seconds to go and 4 laps. Not much chance of that. Still, though, so far, an outstanding performance by these guys and, of course, the Ferrari team. Both are in 2nd and 4th place, as far as we're aware. Irvine still holds that position.
Look how serene with the steering wheel Damon Hill is.
Is it strange not seeing that left leg pumping up and down on the clutch pedal that we have to get used to with prototypes? He just sits there using his left leg as support, which does help a considerable amount in stability and energy saving in the cockpit, and of course does some left foot braking, no doubt, with that as well. Some drivers like left foot braking, others like the more conventional method.
Speaking of race driving, you've got a bit of a race coming up. The 24 Hours of Le Mans will be your next assignment.
Yes, not too many assignments these days, but Daytona, Sebring, and then of course Le Mans coming up, driving the Harrods McLaren with Andy Wallace, who I drove with last year when we finished 3rd, and Oliver Gruillard. Should be very interesting. Some great cars out there. Here it comes Villeneuve.
This is the 4th stop, and this one does not look like...
No, he's saying get out. A bit of a finger across the throat job there from one of the mechanics. Lucky it was Villeneuve and it wasn't Hill. Otherwise, we'd have seen a Ferrari red there up front, getting the checkered flag. That was very sudden, wasn't it? He was clocking in good time, suddenly pulls off, stops, get out, that's it.
Obviously something mechanical. And he will not get out of the car as it is pushed back into the garage. So there goes some points for the Williams team. Useful points, as Frank Williams always calls them. Every one worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Nobody ever knows just what it does mean, those points, do they? It would be intriguing one day to get a book and try and get somebody to write a book about what really does go on behind the scenes in Formula One.
Oh, how crass to talk about money. Although it's a fairly safe assumption that the total financial outlay in prize money in Formula One is probably on the order of $30 million or so per year. So if money is of interest to you when it comes to professional motorsports, you should know that Formula One motor racing is by far the most lucrative form of the sport in the world. 3 laps remaining. Now, of course, this is the 5th round of the World Championship, but every year, no matter what happens, all is prelude to the grandest Grand Prix of all. Derek calls it Monaco, I call it Monaco. It's the Grand Prix of Monte Carlo. We'll have qualifying Saturday the 18th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Deuce. And then our On the Grid show, a half hour before the start of the race on Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by live coverage of the Grand Prix at 8:30 a.m. Do not miss it. We'll be tripping the lights fantastic along the quay down by the harbor. All the yachts, all the parties, all the excitement, exhibitions of art, auctions of classic racing cars, and of course, the race itself. It is absolutely the event to be at in Formula One 1996.
I will try and change Monaco to Monaco.
Oh, don't change a thing.
To Monaco. Whatever you want me to do, Bob, I'll do it.
Well, we'll call Princess Stephanie and ask her how she'd like it pronounced.
Home.
Yes, indeed. Well, what do we make of Damon Hill, who simply produces race after race? He cannot buy a break in the respect department. In fact, Michael Schumacher recently left Damon Hill out of a published list of the drivers that he thought were the 6 most naturally talented, not including himself. His list included the likes of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Eddie Irvine, Rubens Barrichello, Jean Alesi, but did not include Damon Hill, who Michael continues to insist is not a team leader caliber of driver.
I think it's very unfair to say that. I think Damon is an excellent driver, of the best. I must admit, personally, I don't think he's a superstar driver. I think he's a star driver. I think there's a few drivers I'd put in the superstar bracket. Schumacher is way out in front of that, as you probably gather by my complimentary comments all the time about his ability. But I think Damon is right up there, driving superbly as he has done this season. Beautiful drives everywhere. And I think his drive, as I said before, in Brazil was second to none. Nobody has driven better.
And it's certainly no dishonor to say that he is perhaps not the caliber of driver Michael Schumacher is, who is perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime sort of talent. And how lucky we were to have both Senna and Schumacher in the sport at the same time, however briefly. If Damon Hill wins this race, it will be his 17th career victory, giving him sole possession of 10th on the all-time list and demoting one of the greats, Sterling Moss.
Yeah, Sterling never had the equipment that Damon's had, though. Damon, who was my idol when I was at school, used to listen to it on the radio.
Damon or Sterling?
Sterling, actually.
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm glad about it. But he never had the right equipment. He always wanted to drive British. Couldn't really ever get the greatest car. When he got the greatest car, of course, he was second to the great Manuel Fangio, and therefore had to contend with always coming second in the races, as, of course, we've seen in lots of racing throughout the last 10 years when the team leader has to do the winning.
Final lap for Damon Hill. Pedro Lamy just ahead in the Minardi, a team based just down the road in Faenza in Italy.
Boy, I hope he doesn't incur a 10-second penalty for blocking here. He's certainly holding Hill up. There's no great hurry. Hill's got to use his brains, intelligence, and that's exactly what he's doing. Take his time. Whoops, he's not actually giving him tons of room, is our Lamy. But I think it's a bit late to give him a 10-second penalty. The guy will be on a minus on the race if he gets it.
Jacques Villeneuve stopped, according to pit information, due to a broken rear suspension. Eerily reminiscent of what happened to Michael Schumacher in qualifying yesterday, where the tie rod holding the toe in of the left rear suspension broke. We don't know exactly the details of Villeneuve's broken suspension, but I guess it has been that kind of a race. Very tough on the machinery. Well, Damon Hill can afford to be patient with Pedro Lamy just ahead, because this is his last lap. One last time through Ravazza, and Hakkinen pulls off the other McLaren.
Definitely an engine problem there too. Not good for poor old Mercedes, who are doing their best to rekindle their image.
One more corner for Damon Hill. Onto the front straight he comes, and he will give Williams its 5th victory in the last 7 races of the Grand Prix of San Marino. There is the checkered flag. Congratulations to Damon Hill.
Superb piece of driving, and I think a lot to be said for the team tactics. They look at Schumacher coming in there.
The right front wheel is absolutely seized up.
Solid. Yeah. Look at it. He's burning through the tire. Look at it, burning through the tire. He's driving it on 3 wheels. As he's got to pull off. I don't believe it at this point. Front brakes, I don't believe it. That is unbelievable. On the last lap of the race, he has the front brakes. Something's got to be done about this. We saw the debacle last week at Nürburgring.
Well, he definitely has his timing down. Yesterday, the suspension broke just after he completed the pole-winning lap. Today, the right front seizes up, but not enough to keep him from second place, and Gerhard Berger finishes 3rd. Welcome back live. There goes a replay of Michael Schumacher's right front seizing up. Here's a look at the results. Damon Hill, his 17th career Formula One victory. Michael Schumacher 2nd, followed by Berger, Irvine, Barrichello, and Alesi in the points-paying positions. Denise, Hakkinen, Lamy, and Badua round out the classified finishers. Damon Hill takes fastest lap. In the Drivers' Championship, Damon boosts his lead. He now has 43 points. And in the Constructors' Championship, the Williams-Renault team, who had the title for years before it was taken away by Benetton Renault, they are solidly out in front. Now, Michael Schumacher, shortly after he crossed the start-finish line with that seized right front, stopped, and fans poured over the fences. And in Formula One, that is a major offense. And I'm sure we will hear repercussions of that. You can see the fans on the racetrack right there. There are the driver championship points. Hill over Villeneuve, who scored no points after dropping out of this race late in the going with a broken suspension. Michael Schumacher moves to sole possession of 3rd, Jean Alesi 4th, and Eddie Irvine in 5th. Damon Hill, salutations over to the pit wall to salute his crew. And, of course, the checkered flag. Once again, a terrific drive by Damon Hill. And with it, he takes sole possession of 10th place on the all-time winners list. There you see the constructors' points. Williams-Renault with a handy lead over Ferrari, and the defending champs from Benetton fading badly. Time for celebration here at Imola. As I said, we're going to hear a lot about this sort of celebrating in the days to come. The governing body, and this is a replay of moments ago as the 40 made its way around while the crowd mobbed the track. That's Michael Schumacher's parked Ferrari in the background. By now it has probably been dismembered. There is Eddie Irvine, who also stopped out on the track. We'll be back with more of the chaos here at Imola in just a moment. There is nothing like the Italian passion for Formula One, although it's likely to cost somebody, as this crowd of spectators took to the track before the cars were safely in park for May. Nevertheless, a brilliant day for Damon Hill and a great victory, Derek Bell.
Yes, it certainly was. He proved again what a fine, complete driver he really is. I think we also saw just how strong the Ferrari is, how strong Schumacher is. Eddie Irvine had a wonderful position there in 4th place, put him right up there again. Prove the reliability of the Ferrari. We've just now got to see just how good their Evolution V10 is, and we know we're going to see it at Monaco.
Let's talk about that race for a moment. It's always different. There are always surprises on the streets of Monaco. We'll have qualifying for you on Saturday the 18th in 2 weeks' time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. followed by our half-hour On the Grid show Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and live coverage of the grandest Grand Prix of all at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Looking forward to it, Derek?
Yes, very, very much indeed. But of course, of all the circuits we go to, Monaco is the place where you have to be on pole position because there is no overtaking there.
First podium of the year, first podium with Benetton for Gerhard Berger, a great favorite after his years with Ferrari. Coming up next, the Barber Dodge Pro Series. Damon Hill picks up another victory, his fourth of the year. We hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Bob Varsha along with Derek Bell. Thanks for being with us. See you in 2 weeks' time from Monte Carlo, Monaco. So long for now from Imola, Italy.